So we've all been there. We want to use a picture that we found online in something that we're making, maybe a video or a flyer or who knows. So I want to go over some of those legal things, especially if you're a student in class, but of course it might apply beyond that. So let me draw kind of two columns here, or two lines and three columns, and on the left will be the public domain. If I'm finding pictures that are in the public domain, in the US that kind of means that they're made before 1923, but of course there's other complications to that too. But the main idea about the public domain is you can use it. You find a picture, you can sell it, you can print it, you can blow it up, you can cut it up, you can do whatever you want. So how do I find these awesome public domain pictures? Well, I personally go to Flickr because I can choose that no known copyright restrictions under the licensing options. But there are also like pages about finding public domain stuff all over the internet. You can find it on your own. So great, you found some pictures that you can use in any way you want. That makes you really happy. So what other kind of work is out there? Well, there's also copyrighted work. How do you know if an image is copyrighted? Okay, this is kind of a hard word here, but anything you find that isn't specifically marked otherwise, we have to assume it's copyrighted. And you might be like, wait, well, what are you even talking about? All right, well, let's say you take a selfie sometime, and you're like, hey, it's just a selfie, it's no big deal. I'm not thinking about ownership, but actually, for real, you own it. You took it, you made it. It's the same for a song you make or a drawing you write or a story you write. If you're the creator of it, you don't have to license it with the government or anything. If you made it, you own it. And that also means you get to tell other people what they may and may not do with it. I mean, I think that's actually kind of a good thing, right? By the way, if you put it on social media, that is a little more complicated because you're following their agreements when you signed up for that, but whatever. So you find a copyrighted image, which is something that doesn't say whether it's copyrighted or not. You're just going to assume it is. And you want to use it anyway. You've got this flyer, you got this video, you got something you want to do. How do you use it? Well, I mean, the first thing you can do is pay them. Sometimes there's a system set up to pay for the rights to use it. You could always ask. You could get an email or a letter or something saying, yeah, go ahead and use it. There's also what we call fair use. You might have heard that term here and there. I don't want to go into super duper duper detail about what fair use is, but in general, especially if you're a student, especially if you're finding an image for class, the real question here that I often find myself asking is, are you critiquing it in some way? Are you using only as much as you need? Are you in some way helping the artist? In other words, showing that you're not hurting the market for this image. I'm telling you, fair use is more complicated than that, believe me, but that's some of the things I often think about. So let's say, for example, that I find this beautiful picture of a mountain and I'm like, hey, I want to put it on my flyer. And I might ask you, okay, well, why do you want to use it? And if your answer is like, it's just beautiful. It's just it looks cool. I like it. I like the picture. You're probably not going to have a fair use. Okay, so what would make it more fair? Well, what if I'm writing an essay about the photography here and I'm saying, hey, here are all the ways that this photography was used. I'm using it as part of my critical academic argument. Right? That's more likely to be fair. What if I cut out all the stuff except the parts I'm really critiquing? Again, that's more likely to be fair. What if I give links to where people can sell it, to showing that I don't want to hurt the market? Again, more likely to be fair. Okay. So we got two columns, right? You've got the public domain stuff, you've got the copyrighted stuff. There's a third column here called Creative Commons. That's essentially a licensing agency which lets creators of stuff in advance say, hey, you don't have to pay me. You don't have to ask me every time. Let me tell you what you can do. No, it's not in the public domain. There's some guidelines here. You have to give me credit, but there's a little bit of an in-between feel. Does that make sense? So remember that picture I showed you of the selfie earlier? I actually got that from Flickr.com, and I know that this picture is licensed by Creative Commons because of this little stuff down here. It says some rights reserved. That first image of the person means that if I use it, I have to give credit to this person. I have to actually say, hey, this is the person who owns it, and this is what it's called. That second one, the little $sign on the right by some rights reserved, means I can't sell it. I can't make any money off of the use of this picture. Now, not all Creative Commons licenses say that, but what's really cool about Creative Commons is it lets people who own stuff, which is you if you take any pictures or make anything at all, it lets those people say, here is how I want you to use it within certain guidelines, whether they can remix it, whether they have to use the same license in the future, etc., etc. So I legally can't make money off of this video because I'm using this picture right here. That's kind of interesting, right? I have to follow the guidelines that this picture used. Okay, let me keep going here. How do I find Creative Commons pictures? Well, again, I go to Flickr. I love Flickr because I can choose Creative Commons in the licensing thing. I can choose to organize by if it's relevant or if it's interesting. I can choose all these color options. Okay, you might say like, no, I like Google Images. That's so much better. And as you might know, under the search tools, you can essentially decide to find stuff that is licensed by Creative Commons or in the public domain with that little box there. Here's the problem that I often have is that once I click into a picture, I don't necessarily know who wrote it. I don't, or who made it. I don't necessarily know how to give credit to this picture. I mean, that stuff there doesn't really tell me anything. As contrasted with the Flickr page, it does tell me here's exactly who owns it, and here's exactly what it's called. Other places to find Creative Commons licensed stuff is on creativecommons.org, where they'll give you a lot of places to look. Okay, so we've got these three categories, and you're like, okay, I think I kind of sort of get it, but then you're like, what? How should I give credit to this? Okay, super fast. If I'm giving credit, okay, I'm going to make another 2 columns here. I've got to break this up by, are we using these images in academic context, where we cite, right? That's what we do in academic context, like you use a source in an essay, etc. Or am I using it in some other context? Well, it kind of depends. The answer depends on what you're talking about, because the legal idea of what you can use and how you can use it isn't necessarily the same as the conventional idea of what you can use in a context like academia. So for example, if you're getting something from the public domain in an academic context, meaning like something I'm doing for a class, I've got to cite it, right? Of course I have to cite it. You cite all your stuff. So spoiler alert, Creative Commons, cite that too. Fair, yes, just cite it, right? By cite it, I mean follow the citation conventions for whatever document you're creating, like an MLA citation like I put there. Okay, but what about in other contexts? A public domain image that I'm using, well, no one's forcing me to give any credit at all. I can just take that picture, I can use it, and like I said, I can even make money off of it. It's in the public domain. It's in the domain of the public, right? Cool. What if I find a Creative Commons licensed picture? Well, all Creative Commons licenses force you to attribute. So there's also often other things that I have to follow too based on what the original creator said. What if I'm using a copyrighted image, and I think that I have a fair use right? Remember, if I'm critiquing it, if I'm only using a little bit, if I'm not making money off of it, etc. It's pretty smart to attribute it in some way. But what does attribute mean? It kind of depends on the context. I mean, Creative Commons actually has a great page on best practices, on how to do it well in different places. Here's what it looks like for me as a teacher. I often make websites for my students where I'll use a picture, and I'm like, okay, here's a picture that I got. It's Creative Commons license. I really like it. So I'll put at the bottom of the post something like, hey, here's the name of the person on Flickr, because I go to Flickr a lot, who took it, and then here's what it's called, and then here's a link to the Flickr page where I actually found it. That counts as good enough attribution to let people essentially know, hey, I didn't make this on my own, I'm not claiming I have any rights on it. No, look, you can follow it here, and that's where you'll get all the info you need. Okay, so super quick, super summary. If you're getting stuff in the public domain, it's super safe, super easy. Students, use this. Find public domain pictures and do whatever you want with them. You don't have to worry, can I use it? How can I not? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Super great. But also find stuff that's Creative Commons licensed. Go to Flickr and choose that. It's super safe as well. You're not going to get any trouble. You do have to give credit though, right? Ask yourself if I'm giving credit in the proper way, which is essentially enough to let people know where it came from and who does own it. I mean, you can license your own stuff with Creative Commons. It's super fun, super fast, super easy. If you're using copyrighted work, you might think I'm going to say, like, don't use it at all, it's bad. Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you should use your fair use rights. It is a good and proper and legal thing to use copyrighted works as long as you know your fair use ideas. So know what's more likely to be fair. You can never really know for sure if it's like 100% fair or not, but at least give it a shot. Okay? Okay.